I'm Michelle.
And I'm Katherine.
And we're here at the Healthy Hurried Human podcast,
where we talk about keeping pace in a world that never slows down. Welcome back to the Healthy Hurried Human podcast.
Yes, today we are interviewing one of a really fun guest, Kristan Leach out of Wisconsin. Kristan is, I would say, a powerhouse recruiter. And she has a number of other things that she's doing. And we're going to be talking to her today about one of my favorite topics, which is employee engagement. And I love the tagline, which is it a crisis or is it a novelty? Where are we going to land? So, Kristan, I would love for you to tell our listeners a little bit about you and your background and what you're doing right now. And we're just going to jump into it.
Sure. Sounds great. Well, thank you for having me. And as you guys mentioned, I'm Kristan. I also professionally go by Stan. A lot of people use the second half of my name. But I got into recruiting just spontaneously. I was always very communicative. I very much valued relationship. And so for the last 10 years, I've been doing it for 2 different boutique firms. I have a great flair and understanding for folks in all levels. So managerial, not managerial, executive, et cetera, all different industries overall across the board nationwide. And I recently went out on my own. And so I have been doing this for almost 9 months now on my own. And I have been working with both sides. So I have worked with candidates, folks looking for a job or confidentially looking to just kind of revamp their resume, get themselves out there, but they don't quite know how to fully make a switch. And then I also work with companies to find them good talent. So I love having that balance, and it's really helped me become better at my craft.
Okay, I love it.
And tell us the name of your company.
Yes. So my company is called Mind Shyft. It's one word, and the shift is with a Y. So the thought behind that is that if you don't change the way that you're thinking, or that you are approaching hiring or approaching going after a job, then you're not going to be as successful as you could.
Okay.
I love that.
So, Kristan, I have a question for you. Are you finding that in the recruiting seat that more companies are reaching out for talent, or is it more individuals quietly, maybe even loudly, looking for a jump to leave? What is it looking like? What's the breakdown these days?
So honestly, recruiting is cyclical. So companies tend to reach out more for talent come fall. So right now I've been getting a lot more activity with folks kind of understanding their budgets, going into planning for the next year. And so they're like, oh my gosh, I have this money left. We could hire somebody. However, on the whole for 2025, it has been very candidate heavy. There's folks that are seeing the environment. They're taking in the market. It's honestly, I would say at least 80 to 85% of everyone I reach out to when I'm recruiting is interested in at least a conversation. They are wanting to keep their options open. They are either proactive but quiet, or they are like, I'm fairly happy, but I don't know where things could go. So the uncertainty in the market has really kept a lot of folks on edge.
Okay. What do you think is driving that? What is it? You said uncertainty in the market, but what is it that people are trying to run away from? What's going on in the workforce these days?
Or run towards?
Yeah.
Are they looking for more, or are they trying to get away from a bad situation?
Both. Honestly, the biggest thing that people are running away from is poor culture. And culture is a very overused word at the moment, but it is very valid. And unfortunately, the companies that aren't embracing the way that their employees need to work and the growth for their employees, the ones that are just checking the box and saying they're listening, but then there's no action behind it, that's a huge red flag. Employees pick up on it immediately. They don't feel valued. And so really people, it's the most difficult thing to interview for, but they want to find somewhere where they can not only have a purpose, but their growth is kind of one and the same with the company. They're looking for better alignment. And they want to know that when they come in, they can not only have an impact, but that they're allowed to do the job they were hired to do. So they're running
Oh,
away
yeah.
from micromanagement. They're running
Mhm.
away from just kind of feeling like they're putting their entire heart into it, but it's not enough. And that is so draining. And then obviously you have more of that work-life balance. There's some people that really need, a lot more people are willing to sacrifice additional funds or money for extra time and for extra flexibility. And that is, that's sometimes still a hard pill to swallow for hiring managers with companies right now.
I feel like when companies are, you said right now, they're in this part of the year when they can, oh, we've got some money, we can hire, all of that. It's almost like it's like a dating app, or they really sell themselves, and it's hard for potential talent to read through the posturing that a company, oh, look at what we're going to do for you. And when you come here, it's going to be great.
Right.
We have cereal in the break room, and we give you your day. Like they really just lay it all out there. And then it's so disheartening because employees see that, they want that, they're told they're going to get to work in their wheelhouse, or you're the perfect candidate for this. And then it's not. Are there ways for employees to sort of see through the posturing of companies when the companies are in a good place to hire?
Right. So I always say that go into an interview as though you're interviewing the company as well. There's so many candidates that are afraid they're so concerned about how they come across to the company. They want to feel as though they position themselves the best, right? So you have this constant back and forth of like peacocking, like the company's trying to be really good, candidates trying to be really good. But one thing that I always say is important, come ready to ask the deep questions. So, for example, if a company was to say, hey, if you found yourself in this situation, how would you handle it? That's a normal behavioral question, right? And it's like, well, I've done this and this and this. Really, in the flip side, as a candidate, you also need to be thinking, if this happened and I found myself in this situation, how would you as a leadership team be supporting me? And so it's almost switching from a level of support. So if I had this, and this, how can I expect to be supported? And then the other thing that you can always do too, which is a little bold, so you have to be careful with how you do it. But if somebody's asking you for references, it is completely within your jurisdiction as a candidate to ask them for a reference as well. Who can I speak to from a client? Who can I speak to from a former employee? Who can I speak to on your behalf? And are you open to me doing that? Because a strong, culturally, foundationally compassionate and well-rooted company will have no problem giving that to you, and or opening it up and say, you can talk to one of our team members. And I think that is what is critical, because the ones that hesitate, you have to watch for those subtle cues,
Red flag.
nonverbal cues. What does the hiring manager look like if they're like, and just, you have to be able to see through the words, but how they're reacting to what you're asking for.
I like it. I like that a lot.
I want to circle back to something that you said earlier, that you're noticing people are looking for time and flexibility. In what capacity how does that they're willing to take less pay if a company's going to offer them time and flexibility? Are we talking PTO time? Are we talking work from home? What are the two? Because that's where my mind went, is that they want more vacation time and they want to be able to work from home. Is that where you're seeing those two commodities really showing up?
The work from home right now is critical. And I will tell
Critical.
you that critical. Honestly, it's critical for two reasons. It's critical because if you are allowing a high performer, especially from managerial level and above, right? So they maybe have a little extra tenure, they've had 10 to 15 years of workforce under their belt, right? You can't go in assuming that they're not going to be accountable to their job. So you have to trust and provide that trust. But commute times are draining, and a high performer will work 10 hours a day if they know that there might be 2 or 3 days a week that they can work from home, and they log in and they're available. And if you're providing them with that flexibility, they will in essence reward you with the level of
Exactly.
hard work that they're doing. Now, it doesn't always happen, but then that's why a company should have good metrics in place, because if an employee is not hitting certain metrics or the results aren't there, or you just can notice an attitude shift, then you have to have the conversation. It shouldn't just go to, oh, it's because you're working from home. That is not impacting a person's dedication and what they can actually perform, how they actually perform and how hard they work. You can't use that as a measure of control, just making sure somebody's in office. So people, to go back to answer your question, people are very much valuing the balance of parenting. So if it is a male
Huge.
employee, if it's a female employee, at least they can know that, hey, if I have to schedule a dentist appointment for my child, or I have to do this and this, I know that I'll be home that day. They are starting to automatically say, okay, I'll log in earlier so that I know I'm going to be out, and then I'll come back. We're always available. We always have our cell phones. Leaders need to start embracing the fact that people will be available if it's for the right things. If it's just a meeting to have a meeting, that makes no sense. We need to be more efficient. We need to be more trusting, and we need to understand the metrics in place so that it is a clear, defined, no, they're not doing this. And that is way more legal. That is way more realistic. You have a better data point. You can't just say, oh, well, your team's light was yellow, so I'm just assuming that, you were playing video games and at the park with your kid all day. That's not fair, right? And so they might have been, but guess what? If all their work is done and the clients are happy and you're bringing money in, so what? It's just that understanding.
That's such a huge factor and a discussion, because, well, at least I know kind of like in our region, there's been a huge call back to the office in all the major corporations and government corporations. It's, you have to show up. And it's, what I'm noticing is that before COVID, there were people who had, like you said, they had tenure. They were already working 3 days a week in the office, 2 days from home. But the new shift is 5 days in the office, no questions asked. And I'm thinking, what have we forgotten? Because it's, well, where I live in Atlanta, and the stress and the crush of traffic, by the time you actually get to the office, or I have a friend of mine in healthcare, and it's a 30-minute commute, have to park in a particular parking lot, wait for the bus to take them to the hospital, go through security checks. It's a 30-minute process by the time she hits the hospital campus to get to her workstation. And you're starting your day 100%. And that's a time factor where the answer of you need to show up 15 minutes earlier, or the lack of understanding and compassion, there's not that much they can do except maybe run more, have closer parking lots or run more buses. That's a hard problem to fix. So the question that we have for employers is, how can you show compassion and grace and understanding? And at least, because they still have to show up and clock in at a particular time. So when you're having the conversation with the people that are asking you to recruit for them, the hiring company, how are you approaching this conversation? Because you're giving them data that they need to understand. What are those conversations like, if you don't mind is asking.
Sure. It's a sensitive conversation, right? Especially in healthcare or in financial, something that's very highly regulated. And let's just be real, 9 times out of 10, they're like, it's out of our control. Most hiring managers are like, this is what the CEO is demanding. This is what our board is demanding, right? And so what I like to tell leaders is that if you're not caring, you're not leading. If you're not listening, you're not caring. So are you better off forcing an employee to show up at a certain time just so they can be there? Or could you ask them, like, take a step back and just say, what is realistic for you? Because, 9 times out of 10, people just want to feel understood. And then when they feel understood, they're going to be able to acquiesce to certain requests, if that makes sense. It's just
exactly.
It's psychological. So from a hiring manager perspective, I always say, you have to go into it assuming that this could be the safest place that this employee has all day. This could be the most structured place that this employee has all day. So if they're late, don't just jump all over them. Ask the question. So step back and say, hey, this is our policy. How does that make you feel? If you have to be in the office at 8:30 in the morning every day, would that impact your personal life? They don't have to immediately say no. You don't have to be like,
that's right.
You have to be in here at 8:30. Approach it sensitively and just say, this is our policy. I don't agree or disagree with it. How does it impact your life? Do you have conflicts? So would you be able to do that? Or what does that mean for you? And then it's a conversation. It's not just an immediate shutdown, and you don't have to disagree or throw the board under the bus or the policies or whatever. But it is just a different approach. And that is the most important part, because there are a ton of benefits from being in person. I talk with my hands. I am an extremely social person. I have worked for a fully remote company for the last 5 years, until I went out on my own. And I had felt incredibly connected to my team. So it is all in approach of just how you handle the conversations. But really, it is also taking matters into your own hands. It's a matter of, as a hiring manager, hey, they are extremely skilled and valuable to our company. They might need to start an hour earlier and leave an hour earlier. And can we be flexible in how we work it out? Gone are the days where you can just be incredibly hard and fast with what you do. So some companies just have to set that as a foundation, but it is team dependent. It is department dependent. So you just have to ask the right questions. As a candidate too, you have to ask the right questions.
This episode of the Healthy Hurried Human podcast is sponsored by Midlife Thrives. Midlife Thrives is for women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s navigating perimenopause and menopause. If you've felt the energy dips, the mood swings, or the brain fog that make you wonder if you're losing yourself, you're not alone. Midlife Thrives is here to help give you clarity, resources, and a supportive circle of women who get it. No quick fixes, no shame, just some real guidance for real life. Learn more and connect at midlifethrives.com, because thriving in midlife isn't optional, it's your new standard.
So it's a matter of approach. Hey, I'm not looking for any favors out of the gate, but happy to come and be on site for the first 2 to 3 weeks, 5 days a week, knowing that I would personally be more productive working from my home office 2 days a week. Would that be something that could be well received? Could we test that out? And just positioning it as you're already part of the team. You don't need to just be like, well, if you don't want what I have to provide, we don't need to have these peacocky conversations. They can just be more balanced.
Kristan, I am a big believer and proponent when I go into pretty much every industry of leadership, higher leadership, empowering their middle management, because that's where middle management is where everything either goes to live or die. all of the things that you want to incorporate it into your organization, it either is going to live or die at that middle management level. And for me, what I've seen in working across industries is whether a company or an organization is good at empowering that middle management or squashing middle management, because when middle management is empowered to make common sense decisions, or, like you were talking about, that person saying, look, I'm not going to say I agree or disagree with the board. Here's our policies. I have this conversation with my worker who's struggling. You know what? Let me when middle management is empowered to say, hey, listen, how can we make this work for you? What is the holdback from companies from empowering middle? Is it the company itself, or is it middle management not feeling that they've got that empowerment? Or is it both?
It's both. It's both. It's both. Honestly, it's control. It's control.
Yeah.
So if a company, depending on size and regulation, right? And what you're doing. I mean, some warehouse shop floor workers, they can't work remote and whatnot, like that we were talking about. But if middle management feels empowered or trusted and valued, and they just have the conversation. I learned very early on in my career that you never make a definitive decision if you're unsure. You always just, I don't know, but I will find out, is a perfectly acceptable answer. But if they're empowered to step back and not have this, I'm the manager, my way is the highway, but they're encouraged to listen. If the company slaps their hand for doing it, it's control, and they're just saying something to the effect of, well, you should have known better, this is our policy. That's a big red flag for me, because the company is, one, they've hired you to be a manager, to oversee a group of individuals, but they're not letting you manage. So
that's right.
They're not even willing to hear out the scenario, right? And so that's very challenging, because a lot of companies then can't get out of their own way, and there needs to be a big habit change there. But middle managers, I heard this statistic last year in my old company. The majority of individuals that are in middle management, they start in their mid 30s to mid 40s. It's a big range. Sometimes it's even earlier, but they don't actually get management training until their early to late 40s. So you have an entire population of people in their early 30s who have never managed before, but they show very great potential. They're high performers, right? You have a whole group of high performers who've been good at what they do, now trying to fill in a leadership role to teach other people how to do it. But all they know is how they've done it. So training, for one, needs to be bumped up, because being a leader and being an independent contributor are incredibly different. And a lot of companies just don't acknowledge that. They're like, oh, your next step is a leader. You've just shown so much promise, and great. They probably can be, but they're also thirsty for the growth and how can I do this in the best way? So when middle management maybe makes some decisions, they're essentially just leaning on the board or their executives, and they don't know what to say. They don't know how to be compassionate. They don't know how to properly listen and just ask the questions. So that's why you have more people being like, no, we can't do that, because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't know how to do it.
So what I'm hearing you say is that we have people in middle management, based on that statistic, that are spending 10 plus years in that position before they even get the training on how to perform in that position as a manager. Talk about putting the cart before the horse.
Well, so I have a lot of theories about this, and one of the statistics that I cannot quote right now, but it's that boomers are people are staying in positions longer. So there's not a promotion next step And there's this lag that's happening in the promotions because it's too top heavy of people not leaving a company or staying around. And so there's a drag with the promotions. Is that one of the reasons what you're seeing with that? Or is it that there's just no training program?
Correct. There's a lot of and you guys probably know this, and I know this from being a recruiter, though, unfortunately, those services are like the first to go when your bottom line is
That's
impacted.
right. That's
the
right.
Trainings, and they can't, and they should not be. It's
That's
very,
right.
very scary to me, just because. And some companies are great at this. I don't want those companies to be overshadowed. The statistic is just very general, but unfortunately, some companies just can't afford, they don't have the time or the dollars to put into a full training program. So, but what then needs to happen is they need to empower maybe that middle manager.
Mentorship.
They need to at least, yes, they need to have a mentorship. They need to, or I personally, I was in a position where I experienced the same thing. I went from being a performer to a leader, and I looked at podcasts. I had this phenomenal book and podcast. It was called Welcome to Management, and it was all about how to transition from being an independent contributor to a leader. And there's resources out there. But if the companies just took a moment, and you don't have to pay for these, right? Or you just pay the $11 to get them the book. And there's other things that they can do. So it's unfortunately lack of a training program, or it's just, it's kind of, I don't have the time. So I am just going to naively trust you to go and do it. And if you don't, there's consequences, right? And it happens so quickly that it's not intentional.
Yeah. So I'm really proud of us because this whole episode has been on, if people are listening, it's been on worker engagement. And I know that I'm proud of us because we have not overused the word, because tends to be a word that people kind of roll their eyes at. They've heard it. It's just culture is another word. And don't take it necessarily seriously. But when we talk about employee engagement, is it just a performance metric? Or when we talk about it like it's just a performance metric, but it's deeply human. What's the missing piece for companies that don't get it when they try to, and this is, Katherine and I talk about this drives me bananas. They try to fix worker engagement by bringing in surface level initiatives. We're going to teach everybody the disc, or we're going to do the color codes, or we're going to do.
I call them gimmicks because they're the new flavor.
A big one a couple of years ago I found with companies is they were having their whole company read a book, and then we would have a book club and talk about it. And that was their way to create worker engagement. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I actually liked my book club I was in. Just gonna say.
But that's not going to fix worker engagement. It's surface level. Can you just speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So honestly, it's listening. And there are so many people that send out surveys. We at my old company, we were like death by engagement survey, unfortunately. You need to, if you're going to do a survey, you need to read the responses, because you are going to have a group of people that are just going to fly through it and hit whatever buttons they can to finish. Fine, I get it. But you are also going to have a group of people that are going to provide some incredibly valuable nuggets. And let me tell you, if people take the time to give you their honest opinion and those little nuggets, you darn well better at least either follow up with them on a conversation if it's not anonymous. If it is anonymous, just take that in. And it's okay. It's, to be clear is to be kind, and too many companies take it personally if somebody's upset. But guess what? This is how we learn and grow. So
That's right.
The problem with employees is that if they are going out of their way to explain what's wrong. It's kind of like the old adage of in elementary school, if you raise your hand, it's likely that there's like 3 to 10 other people that have the same question. That's exactly how it is in the
That's
workplace.
right.
If one person goes out of their way to speak up, there are going to be a whole host of others that agree with what this person is saying. However, if there's no conversation, there's no acknowledgement, and this could
Follow
be
up.
in correct. And it could be most engagement surveys are at least divvied down to department. So if there's not at least a follow up with the director of that department, you're missing the boat. Then, and I know this from experience, and I'm kind of throwing myself on the sword here, but I stopped responding to these engagement surveys because I would reply and put the same things and the same things and the same things, and nothing would change. And I'm like, why am I filling this out if nothing is even acknowledged?
Can you hear us? We're good?
Yes.
Okay. We just moved some equipment and the screen went blank. So just sorry about that.
This takes us back to the beginning of the conversation, and I'm like, ooh, this is another great question for potential employee interviewing, is to say, hey, I would love to know, when's the last time you've done any sort of engagement surveys, and what were some of the things that you learned about your employees when you did it? That is a great, powerful question.
There's so many things, and we're really hitting up against the time limit we told you that we were going to have, and we're really sorry that we're running a little over. This is obviously a hot topic for us and for you, and we really respect because you have such a unique, coming from a background of recruiting myself, you have such a unique viewpoint into companies and into your the people you're trying to recruit and the companies they're leaving, that we really value your opinion. And consistently what keeps coming up, Kristan, is the word listening, and the fact that there has to be an action so they know that they've been heard. And I can think of companies when they were remodeling their buildings, they put a survey out about what do you want, and they if it was physically possible and safe, they put every single thing in there, even a basketball court, a half basketball court. People are like, you're gonna, and it changed the employees' engagement because they were heard. And guess what? What you said, but what you said earlier is employees will show up harder for you to get the work done. And it's very easy to see if they slack off. But when they're heard or responded to, and it could be something as simple as the toilet paper in the bathroom, that I'm not kidding about these engagement things, like what really irritates them, or a start time for a meeting, or the value of a meeting if it's wasting their time. When there are tangible things that are seen from listening, that is when engagement and trust really happens. And I'm going to be stuck with this one for a long time. What you said of, if you care, well, now I've butchered it. What is it?
If you're not caring, you're not leading. And if you're not listening, you're not caring.
That's right there.
That's so good. Listen, I'm going to take this moment to call out a couple of industries that I'm like, I want to say, you need to, if you're listening to this and you're in this industry, pay attention, sit up, listen. And one of them is education. Another one is healthcare. Let me tell you, those two industries love their surveys. They love to send their superintendents out and talk to the teachers, talk to the nurses. And then the nurses and the teachers are like, I've seen nothing. I've seen nothing that we talked about in our meetings and that you asked us about and told us that you see us and you love us and you appreciate us because we're the frontline people. Those two industries, I'm going to call you out right now. If you're in leadership, you need to listen and you need to pay attention and you need to put some action behind what you're hearing.
And it's got to get down to to all levels. It can't just be the C-suite or the middle management that sees the effects of the surveys.
Oh yeah. And most of the time, they're the ones doing the surveys the most. Absolutely.
Well, and you can't, so often I also hear from executive leadership candidates, I am one to be on the floor. I want my people to see me. I want them to feel comfortable with me. They need to still be listening. And it's just a matter of, it used to be praise. It used to be great job and affirmation. And affirmation has switched to acknowledgement. the basic need of an employee is acknowledgement.
That's right.
So it doesn't have to be praise, or it could say, hey, I sent you were a little off in your meeting today. What's going on? And that's all it is. You don't have to be good or bad. You don't have to be reprimanded. It's just, what is going on?
Let me see
that
you.
is
Yeah.
so important. And to your point, Michelle, all industries, as before I got into recruiting, I was in advertising and marketing, and you can imagine how fast those industries run, just like healthcare. If you're not doing a post-mortem or a follow-up after a big launch or after a big sale or after a big completion, if you're in manufacturing and you had a big shipment that went out, if you're spending all of the time to fulfill orders or build something, or even in healthcare where it's this massive initiative, if you're not taking the 1 hour afterwards to get the entire team together and talk about what went well, what didn't, what can we keep our eyes on for next time, what do we need to consider, it's 1 hour, and that's going to completely transform how you do your next. So it's not this, I am extremely pet peeved with inefficiency. And if you can take that 1 hour to then revamp your next 40 hours that you put into a project, it will save you extreme amounts of money.
Shocking.
Let me give anyone listening,
how they don't have that.
Anyone listening, you write that up, and guess what you're developing? A training manual. Because all these people have terrible training because they don't have practical lived experiences. Write it up, get it written down. When or if it's a success or if it's a failure, you now have your training manual.
That's right.
And record the meeting. We all have AI. We all have record. We all have AI companion on Zoom. Just record the meeting and then have it, put some bullet points. There's your training manual.
Yeah, and with AI, it'll type the training manual for you.
Listen, I feel like we're in a church right now, because I'm like, where's the choir behind us? I'm like, whoo, yes, all the things. We're saying all the things that I'm like, pay attention, listen to this. We're here, the three of us are coming to you, whatever industry you're in, and we can fix you.
Listen,
this is good stuff.
This is why you're
but it's small tweaks.
It is. It's bite-sized chunks.
It's doable. That's what I want people to know, is this is so doable, and it's not hard. And if you don't have the capacity for it, find someone, I don't know, like Foxygen, like Kristan, who can and who does have the capacity. We can make it super easy. It's just, this is really doable. And to me, it's just always mind-boggling. And I scratch my head because I'm like, I don't know why you're not doing it. I don't know why you're not having, to that point of do the follow-up after your big thing. To me, that is the most simple, the most easy, the most common sense thing that any industry, any company, organization, whatever, any team can do, and they don't. So this has been so good. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, and I know we're kind of going over, but the last thing is transparency. A lot of companies struggle with how much to tell their employees, even their leaders, or they'll say things to their leaders, but they'll be like, keep it from the team. We can't have this getting out. Transparency is clarity. And that is, unless it's obviously very confidential, but give people their why. Why are they doing the things? You ask a lot of folks to perform as a leader. Tell them why. And just, you don't have to let out how all the sausage is made, but just let them be valued. Show them they're valued and why every single person from the top to the intern is necessary in a process.
Yes. Woo. Amen. We've talked about that too. Let them see the end, the whole, you have a phrase for it, the end process. Like, what am I doing this
line
part?
Of sight.
Line of sight. That's her wording on that. And it's just, every employee needs that. It's great. Absolutely. This has been so fantastic.
Yeah. There's so many aspects that, Kristan, we might have to have you come back on, because you have such great phrases, like snaps that we can just, quick cuts and clarity and transparency. And it's great. It's fantastic. And there's just so many things. I do want to piggyback on one thing that I thought of about taking the hour about what went well. One of the things I've seen in companies is that your finance department knows a lot about your projects, and they're not the ones asked, because it's the project managers that are asked about what went well. And don't forget to bring in all aspects of how did they pay their bills? Was it difficult? Did we get enough? And your salespeople, don't be afraid to include the whole team, because then guess what? Your finance people feel like they have a voice, and they can make and break you with collecting too. So like there's an efficiency issue and bringing people in. But if you continue to look at the company as a whole, that everybody has something of value to give and offer on all aspects of the process, you're going to guess what? You're going to build culture and engagement, because you're asking the questions. You as the leader are engaging with the employees. And maybe, I don't know, maybe this is crazy. It's not the employees that aren't engaged with the company. It's the leaders that aren't engaged. Just maybe.
You got it.
I mean, again, I feel like we've been at church.
Well, and include HR, because who was having issues throughout? Who wasn't communicating? I mean, it's just that is correct. And so you're spot on. I love it.
All right. Well, our producer Gianni's going to kill us because she's got some editing to do to bring this down, because we went way over. So.
Well, or maybe we just say it's an extended cut, because there's, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but you have another company too that we didn't even get to talk about. So we're
going to definitely have to have a Kristan 2.0. You're going to have to come back probably in season 2. So
3.
We're going to have to do this.
We are season 2, season 3.
But again, I don't know. Anyways, we're going to have you back on, because this has been so good. Thank you so
helpful.
much.
I mean, thank you for sharing with us. It's been great.
Kristan, we'll be talking and seeing you soon. Thank you again for being on.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
The Healthy Hurried Human podcast is brought to you by Foxygen Consulting and a handful of silent sponsors who believe in this work and quietly keep us going. We see you, we thank you, and we are glad that you're part of this journey.